Let me start. Okay. Okay. I think you before I start the session, quick. Are you all of you all are updated on the? You're just about only 83 of you all I can see. Uh, I think the batch has got over 190 odd people, right? But are you all very clear about the assignment one?
Yes, Professor.
Now, assignment one, that's going to be assignment two. The assignment two will be where you will actually take, which I'll give, which I'll put, which I'll, by next weekend, I will have that also on LMS. Your next assignment will be where you actually take an idea and then prepare a pitch deck on it, okay? Which means that if you're coming up with a solution, say for, to help the elderly lead a healthy life, if that's your idea, you will actually develop a pitch deck on that. Okay, and I'll update that on the LMS in a week's time. Right now, I think what has been scheduled on the calendar is just about 4 sessions, which is today. Then there's I think 17th. So 2 sessions in July, and there are 2 sessions in August. But I've been asked to take 8, right, in total. So I have 4 more sessions. Now, those sessions can be planned at any given time. So what I thought is, once you're ready with your case studies, those presentations we can do at the group's convenience, possibly on an hour every day of the week or something in the evenings or whatever, right? We'll schedule that. So starting end of July, whenever whoever is ready, and there are very simple case studies. Just put your thought process after you finish the next session. You'll get an idea of what needs to be done. A 7th to end slide understanding of the case. What is it that you think can be done, should be done, depending on the problem statement. And we can do those presentations instead of spending a session like this. And since you're over 100, 190, close to 190 of you all, it will take quite a time. So we can do it during the weekdays, maybe an hour, every hour, once an hour in the evening, whenever, whichever group is free, we can close it out. Okay? The one thing that I would really request is, most of the times, because nobody switched on the camera, I don't insist people switching on the camera. Doesn't mean that you all should stay quiet. I would really appreciate if you'll ask the question. Right? Please participate. Make it as participative, interactive as possible. Only then, will that learning happen. Right? So let us quickly start. You tell me if you can see the.
We can see the screen.
We are able to see the.
Are you seeing one full screen or are you seeing a split screen?
Now it's a split screen.
Split screen, Professor.
Split screen, is it?
Now it's one single screen. I think the moment you put into the slide mode,
it goes off. Yeah, it's going off to split screen for some reason. I don't know how to solve it.
I think this is okay. We can.
Okay, okay, I will manage it. Okay. What I'll do is to make it a little more bigger so that you can get the. Great. So this course is on entrepreneurship and corporate entrepreneurship innovation, as you call it. So we'll try and understand unravel the mysteries of why we need to study a course on because as we go along, we'll possibly understand a lot of some of the nuances of why we have to study a course on entrepreneurship. So we all know entrepreneurs have always been around, right? So whether you're those lawyers who've set up their offices or the CAs who you go to to file your tax returns, those roadside street vendors, those food carts that we see, those little factories that we see sometimes when driving down, towards Whitefield or whatever. Yeah, all of these are entrepreneurs in some form or the other. Yeah. And so are the people who started companies like Birla and all that many years ago. They started off, or even Infosys 35 years ago when Infosys started. They also, 6, 7 co-founders got together in a garage and set up Infosys. Right. Today, of course, Infosys is a much larger enterprise. While that has been the case, any questions? So, but while having said that, it's only, I think, over the last 10 years or 10 to 12 years that a lot has been said about entrepreneurship, right? We see a lot of articles, we see people where you see articles about entrepreneurs getting, the entrepreneur ventures getting funding, articles, interviews with entrepreneurs. In the last 5, 6 years, there's a content site called yourstory.com, which carries interviews with different entrepreneurs, ventures, many different kinds, women, youngsters, whoever, right? Right from the Swiggies of the world to even somebody who's just come on board into the entrepreneur journey. Yeah. But thankfully, unlike the past, the word entrepreneur is not a bad word anymore. 10 years ago, if you told somebody, hey, you know what, I'm going to set up my own business and, I'm going to try and do something on my own, the person would have turned around and laughed at you, saying, what the hell are you? Are you mad? Right? Aren't you comfortable getting that monthly salary at the end of the month? But I think the world also has moved a long way. Yeah. Today, I think people look at our entrepreneurship as a very positive outcome of the entire business environment. So, so much so that when we hear the word entrepreneur, I think there's a lot of different moolah, a lot of money. You've heard about stories, of course, of when Flipkart got sold, the Bansals, collecting at least each of them collected over 200 crores as their personal worth. Or you see some photographs of some. If you look at the Economic Times on the behind, sometimes they carry these riddle write up about an entrepreneur, and then he'll be talking about, no, I went to this. My favorite holiday location is XYZ, and this is how we spent our holiday, whatever. And there's a lot of popularity around that.
Professor, sorry to interrupt in
Yes.
between. Can you speak a little louder? It's very less audible.
Once.
Or you can put your mic a little close.
I'm very close to the mic. Is it better now?
Yes, it's better.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
Yes, Professor, it is pretty clear now.
Okay.
And one request, if you don't mind, could you talk about yourself so that we are well aware that with whom we are talking with?
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought you would remember because I think I was part of your induction. But okay, let me quickly take a minute to give you a quick background about myself. My name is Jitan Raj Patri, and I'm an adjunct faculty with Dayanand Sagar, where I teach courses on entrepreneurship, innovation, and marketing, and possibly even retail. Why retail is because in the last 10, before I became a solopreneur in the year 2018. I was with the Future Group, heading the marketing for both Brand Factory and Central. In fact, more or less in the initial years of Future, when I joined the Future Group, team and me were instrumental in actually launching this format called Brand Factory. And before that, I've spent some time with SAP, a little over a year with SAP in their marketing, and also have experience in marketing communications, which is working with a couple of very large multinational advertising agencies. In the last 3 years, as a solopreneur, I've interacted with about 5, 6 or 7 startups, 2 of which I still continue to work with. One of them has now crossed $2 million in their annual recurring revenue, and that they work in the marketing automation space. So a lot of what I'll speak about, obviously, yes, there are. I have taken some notes from textbooks, but a lot of it, what I'll speak about, is also personal experiences which I share, especially. I don't know if this is a deck, but maybe sometime, if not today, then maybe future sessions, I will share those slides where I bring in some of my personal experiences also. Yeah. So from that's me. And I've been associated with Dayan Sagar for a little, I think just about a year, right? Last July 2020 is when I came on board. And I think it's August or September, the first class that I took. So here I am. This is my 4th batch. This is my 4th trimester, 2 batch. So it was last September, December, March, and yeah, July. So great. So I think when we talk about entrepreneurs, I think there's a lot of, we think of them as getting a lot of money. They are startups being bought for millions of dollars. And just today, I think I was reading an article where this Finnish company, Finnish, right? This company from Finland has bought this gaming company in India for about 2,000 plus odd crores. So, and of course, we are all privy to information on how a college dropout like Steve Jobs went and started Apple, or how an Ivy League student like a Mark Zuckerberg, started Facebook. Right? So there are a lot of stories. People like Elon Musk. Enough and more is said about them. We have those similar kind of a population in India too, right from the Bansals or to who's the Kunal Shah of Cred, and so on and so forth. Yeah, so all we see about and read about is stories of success, right? $1 billion exits, founders making the money. We read stories about, I think today, who was it, Grofers or somebody else has just raised some round as part of the Series D funding to kind of, is it Grofers or somebody? I'm not able to recollect who it is, but they just got close to about $100+ million to in their 4th round. Which is valuing them at about $700 $800 million. So while entrepreneurship is a great career option, it's actually more than a career option. I think it's a great journey, and we do hear about a lot of stories. But you may wonder why we even studying entrepreneurship. Right? Let me do one thing, sir. I can't. It's difficult for me to present like this. So why are we studying entrepreneurship? What is it that we hope to gain, right? So entrepreneurship innovation are increasingly popular fields in today's evolving business scene. Yeah. In India alone, I think in the last 1 year, I think the entrepreneurial activity has grown despite the pandemic, despite the impact of the pandemic, and some of the startups had to shut shop. I think the activity grew about 20% or more, right? And these figures are validated. I got it from Startup India. And of course, pandemic has only aided it, because suddenly the pandemic, while it a few startups had to fold up and close down, but it also gave it also threw up a lot of opportunities which some of the entrepreneurs are taking advantage of. Hopefully, by studying entrepreneurship innovation, one can really understand and learn the underlying principles of how to set up a business. Yeah, avoid certain common pitfalls that that we may possibly not know or ignore. If not for the theoretical knowledge. Understand how do we create a pitch deck, how those business plans are created, ability to present, develop a business model, and hopefully, at least from a theoretical perspective, understand what does it take to achieve success. If you have your own idea and want to run with it, right? Where out of 100 startups, 90 fail, 10 succeed. And within even this 10 who succeed, the degree of success, it varies, right? Out of this 10, possibly just one will be a unicorn. Yeah, so that's why there's only one Flipkart. There's one, Uno Academy. There's one Byju's. There's one Big Basket. Even Grofers and even Amazon Fresh is still not able to match up to Big Basket's operational efficiencies. Right? So even for an organization like Amazon, which thrives, whose only business model is driving online, is a marketplace aggregator and driving online business, is not able to match up to Big Basket's operational efficiency, especially when it comes to groceries and food. So by reading success stories of startups that have made it big, it is very easy for us to assume that becoming entrepreneur isn't challenging. Yeah.
Professor, can you tell why why it's not Amazon
Yet.
could make a success?
Entrepreneurship and innovation require education effort to master because it's not easy. There is a lot of challenges one needs to face. It's the knowledge of the theories and concepts behind entrepreneurship and innovation that give many business owners the confidence to launch a venture despite the risk of failure. And more so in an environment where the economy is fluid, where anything can happen at any time, and where natural environmental catastrophes can create, or create disruption. Obviously, the risk of failure is very high. But how do you try and succeed? What do you have, at least from a theoretical perspective, to give you that those little nuggets of information that can help you hopefully overcome that? So, in addition to entrepreneurs, corporate employees also are realizing the value of innovation. Why are they realizing the value of innovation? Because one, it's this very same employee who possibly left that organization and started a venture. Why? Because he saw that there was an opportunity, and the organization was not looking at the opportunity as a means to earn revenue. So his whole thing is, why don't I just look out, yeah, move out, look at that, and create a product or service which I can monetize. And imagine a company which looks at innovation and had the same guy been retained within the same company and said, hey, you know what, you are in charge of the innovation project, why didn't you drive it? Possibly, I don't know, things would have been different. Okay. So whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur or a professional in the corporate setting, understand the basics of entrepreneurship and innovation can position you to succeed in today's very dynamic market. Yes, we all know startups are critical as they impact economy positively. So why so much focus on startups? What is this reason? Yeah, the answer really lies in the fact that there's been a huge shift that's happened. There's consumer needs are shifting. The markets have become far more dynamic. The economy is fluid, right? There's a lot of diversity today in the entire professional space, and all of this, and there's technology which is creating, which is a catalyst, which is a disruptor, which is also a disruptor by itself. So all of this is creating a lot of data to be thrown up, a lot of needs and wants to be changed. Today there is a set of customers who only want certain things are very sustainable, right? They want stuff which is more say environment friendly. Right? So how do you solve that? It's not available. Not I understand you are possibly not even making those kind of products, but there is a small startup who's creating that, who's servicing this niche segment. So variables really are many. Yeah. So it is, and organizations, both large and small, need to be very agile and quick to respond and grab these opportunities. If you don't go there, somebody else will. Yeah. And it is usually the Davids that get it first. I hope you heard the story of the Goliath, David and Goliath, right? So the David, it's only the small, nimble chap who's willing to, kind of quickly move and get there and work hard and ensure that he or she can, succeed. Yeah. But while the Goliaths earlier, or the larger corporations may not have, they may have ignored something like this a few years ago, but today they can't. Why? Because their own customer is now looking out to some other vendor to possibly sort a problem or solve a problem which they have, which may be minuscule for this large organization, but for the customer, it's an important problem, which is being now offered by a startup. And offered by a startup, set up by a person possibly who would have been working with this organization, right? Hence the need for organizations also to really look at innovation internally and then create teams which can actually work in this kind of an environment. So while one side there is a Steve Jobs, the Jeff Bezos, and all over the world, some of them didn't study college, college dropouts. So I'll try and explain why are we studying entrepreneurship and innovation, and I'll use an analogy which is using cricket, which is I think most of us are quite familiar with. We all know Sachin Tendulkar and Rahul Dravid, yeah. And I'm not going to go into the cricket statistics of each of them, but what I try and do is understand or explain to you from their very as a personality, right? Sachin Tendulkar, we all know, is a genius, and all he had to do was ensure that he converted his genius into long-term success, which he did, and he did quite successfully. He's more like a Bezos or Jobs, because they had that streak in them. They had that vision, or whatever you call it, right? Jeff Bezos knew what he had to do. He was provide the best customer experience, and how to do it. He by starting off Amazon, which helped buy stuff online, right? So with Steve Jobs, he created an aspirational product phone. Today there are phones, and there is the Apple iPhone, right? So, but Dravid was different, right? And most of us are like Dravid. Right? He obviously worked hard. He was very focused on what he was doing. Every match for him was like a challenge or a hurdle, or even setting up like a or setting up a new start, or setting up a new venture, or whatever, right? He knew his strengths, he knew his weaknesses. He could take criticism and failure in stride. So which means if he failed, yes, he would go back and say why I failed, learn from it, and come back stronger the next time. And importantly, he prepared. Preparation was key. And it is exactly what we'll try and do in next 4 to 8 sessions, is try and get you a little more understanding, in-depth understanding to what entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship is all about. And if you so choose to travel this path, then can you become like Dravid? You have to prepare yourself to play on any pitch condition, face any bowler, and any challenge that may come up. Yeah. So why study entrepreneurship and innovation? Like I said, set your business on the right foot. Obviously, being an entrepreneur or setting up an entrepreneurship venture involves a lot of risk. Yeah. Though every entrepreneur imagines that they would be successful, they must act with the full knowledge that there are odds against them, and the odds could come from anywhere. So if you start off possibly without any knowledge, you will learn it the hard way. Yes, you will learn. It's not that you may not succeed, you will succeed, but it may be hard. And the impact of that, the pain could be, could tell on the entrepreneur's health, could tell on the entrepreneur's, social circle, etc., etc. Right? So hopefully, by studying entrepreneurship innovation, one can really understand the underlying principles of starting a business. What kind of pitfalls does one look at? Hopefully, look at pitching the ideas, validate the product. What do you do when you have an idea? How do you take it forward? Even before you invest your money, or should you invest your money and then see what happens? And then hopefully, develop a business plan, business model, understand what gets into a plan, why, how does VCs, analyze those plans, etc. And hopefully, find success in a space which sees more failure than actual, success, right? Skills. I've personally interacted. I worked with about 12, 14 entrepreneurs, because each of the startups that I interacted with had a minimum of 2 co-founders, and I've also spoken to a few others. But I find a lot of commonalities, certainly. So certain skills that they had was very, very, or certain characteristics and skills was very common, right? Unlike earlier when those days when the Flipkarts of the world and all started, there was a lot of hue and cry about the fact that it was only the IITs and IIMs, graduates from IITs and IIMs who would get funding or were successful in setting up these ventures. But I don't think that holds any true anymore. I think it was just media hype, right? Today, entrepreneurs can come from very different, diverse backgrounds. Yeah, regardless of the age, gender, age, or even the socioeconomic status, you can succeed if you really have certain skills, business skills and traits. Yeah. So understanding of the financial acumen, you need to be confident, self-belief, your assurance that you can, how to accept and act on feedback. Your ability to network is very important to network. Network is not only within your own team members, but also within the fraternity, right? And the industry as a whole. What kind of thinking skills? Are you both a thinker and doer? Are you a visionary? And how do you, there are people with different mindsets. Some people have sustaining mindsets. Some people have, building mindsets. There are people who have growth mindsets. How do you really plan for growth? So if you are a founder of a technology startup, how can growth come to you? Obviously, growth comes through one easiest way. First answer that I will, if I ask you a question, the first answer that I will get is growth can come through acquiring new customers. Fantastic. But what happens when you, those customers who you acquire and become part of your, are now onboarded onto the startup? You need to make them grow, right? Your product has to add benefit to them. If that's not there, they will not be part of the client roster anymore. And a lot of this can be learned, can be honed. Right? It is not that you want to be born with this, not necessary. Yes, there are certain people would take to, some people are born with natural financial acumen. Some people are naturally born confident. Some people are not, but they develop it. Yeah. Some people are good talkers, so they may end up doing well in sales. It doesn't mean that one can't learn, and that is something that I can definitely guarantee that you can definitely learn how to sell, because I've done it. Yeah, and I was never into sales all these years, and after 25, 26 years of corporate experience, I've got into sales. Yeah, making cold calls. Yes, it is hard. Yeah, and I would always ask myself after 26 years, what am I doing? But once you get the hang of it, once you learn the tricks of it, you start enjoying it. Yeah. It becomes a great way, and it's a lovely way. And once you do that, and some of the people that I've cold called and had conversations with today are people who I now speak to on a very regular basis. So these things also can be learned, thankfully, right? If you have a business idea, how do you validate it? It is very important that the idea that you have needs to be taken through a small process which will tell you, and through that process, the kind of results that you get will tell you whether the idea is worth putting money into or not. Yeah. So different ways. One is obviously you go out in the market, get it, test the market, you do a quick dipstick research to see if something like this works. Yes, they'll say, okay, great, the idea is great. Now the next step for you to is actually build on that idea. So you may create a product out of the idea, then you test the product. You give it out to go to maybe one customer that you may know and say to do a proof of concept. Yeah, you don't have to pay me anything, but try it out. So all of this helps validate, and those results that you start getting will only help you improve the product even more. So when you actually get out of the market, you are going out with something stronger, which is what the market wants. Yeah. Because today you may develop an idea without even thinking, without even doing any kind of validation. And after a year, you'll realize that the market has changed completely. You may not even need that idea anymore. Why do you need to network? Why do you need to kind of interact with the fraternity? Because you can learn from the experience of others. Or not only that, but also within your own entire set of group or set of class that you have, right? Few of you all may end up setting up ventures of your own. So how can you fall back on each other? How can you share learnings, or share certain thoughts and things that may help you all succeed? Yeah. Or rely on each other for work. why only a startup? But as if you go back tomorrow and there is an idea that you want to take forth in your own organization, possibly you can convince them to uh, start a team and focus on innovation, right? Which possibly you can lead. So there are different there are different avenues that can be thought through because you're learning about entrepreneurship and innovation. So there's a research that's done by Microsoft which says that 86% of people who work at an innovative company plan to stay on with the current job because they see that as a great option for them. Yeah. According to McKinsey, innovative organizations also experience greater financial return because possibly the product you may that may have come out of this innovative exercise could add to the revenue generation engine. So whether you're working for your own venture or you're working in an organization, this course helps you because also it gives you a perspective, a much larger, more well-rounded perspective to what business. So if you're a techie, you may understand how sales is being done, how marketing is being done. Or if you're a marketing person in a technology company, you'll understand, how the products are being done. And you may actually go back to them and give them insights, saying that, hey, you know what, this is what the market is looking for. And these are what my customers are looking for. And which will help only enhance the product. So there's a lot of information transparency, information sharing that can help in creating these, these little, which will only help the company or the venture only move forward and succeed. Okay? So while we understood what the market needs and while we are also read why we need to study and how it will help, let's come down to actually trying to understand who is an entrepreneur. Yes. They're basically people who recognize opportunities. They're normally a lot of people would have seen the pandemic as a disaster, right? People had lost jobs, but out of those people who had lost jobs, there are a few who actually saw it as an opportunity. I remember last April there were a series of articles that were published by I think Times of India and I think even Deccan Herald, where they profiled certain people who had lost jobs and not very high profile people who were working in small firms who had lost jobs. As one of them, I remember, was an accountant who had lost his job somewhere in Tumkur. And then obviously, how does he ensure that his livelihood goes on? He used only one thing. He used the fact that because of the pandemic, people are not going to these roadside eateries and eating the food. Why? Because it was being served in steel plates. Yeah. So obviously the hygiene factor, or whether the steel plates are washed and stuff like that. He created disposable plates using leaves of the areca nut tree. Yeah. And he started selling them. Today, I believe, and there was an update, I think, in one of the things. Today, he earns 5 times what he was earning as salary as in that company that he was there, right? So there are people like that who take those kind of opportunities. Who was he? Did he have great education? Did he have an IIT? No, he didn't. He just saw that thing and he had the foresight and the perseverance to push on that idea. Yep, they obviously catalysts of change within the marketplace. Passionate, need to be passionate, otherwise, it won't survive. You'll end up unnecessarily stressing oneself out. Okay? And that particular drive. Now imagine now he'd start doing that. Now he's employed about a team of about 10, 12 people, including a couple of members of his own family. So he's provided employment to them. So, which means that there is a chain of the entire business world moving forward. So anyone can be right? So yes, but it's not going to be easy. There are very few of those things that, there's only one, that's why there's only one Facebook. Yeah. If it was so easy, there would have been hundreds or at least 4 or 5 Facebook, 4 or 5. So it is hard. Did Amazon have it? Did Jeff Bezos have it? I'm sure he didn't. He struggled. Possibly, it's only that possibly he came at the right time. while timing is not really, you can start anytime.
Professor, lot of background. Sorry.
Phase
Hello.
of the shifts that were happening.
Rajesh, Bhupender, lot of background
So Helen,
disturbance.
is there a question? I can see a message, but I don't want to move into the chat box. Is there a message for me?
No, I
not
think
for
there
you.
was,
There's a lot of background
Professor,
noise.
we have disturbance from here.
I think now it has stopped.
Okay. So what is entrepreneurship? You know who an entrepreneur is. So what is entrepreneurship? Basically, it's a mindset. Yeah. While there are definitions for who an entrepreneur is, but I think for me, it is all about being. It is a mindset because there are a lot of sacrifices one has to make to really be on his journey, right? So an entrepreneur mindset is nothing but a set of skills that enable people to identify and make the most of opportunities, overcome and learn from setbacks, and succeed, whatever the setting may be. Yeah. This mindset also includes elements associated with dark side. Yeah, and I'll come to tell you what dark side, because like a coin has two sides. Yeah, there's heads and tails. So if heads is the positive side, the tails could be the negative side, or like the moon. We only see the bright side of the moon. We've never seen the dark side of the moon. So Preeti Drucker, I think, captures the essence of entrepreneurship pretty well. Most of what you hear about entrepreneurship is all wrong. It's not magic. It's not mysterious, and it has nothing to do with genes. It's a discipline, and like any discipline, it can be learned. In India, there are communities, right? The Marwadi community, Gujarati community, which have this natural flair for entrepreneurship, because most of them naturally get into the family business or start up something on your own or branch out or whatever. Yeah? And then those kind of communities exist across India. In Karnataka, there are the Shetties, the Pais of Mangalore, when started Syndicate Bank, or Tamil Nadu, you have the Murliyars and Chettiars. Then you have the jewelry community across. So, however, I mean, I think if you look at, I think you map India out, there are these communities who are naturally inclined towards entrepreneurship. So, what is the kind of having said that, so what are the kind of ventures that entrepreneurial organizations really start off? Of course, the simple is, of course, small businesses. There are scalable startups who I think most of us read about scalable startups a lot, large companies and social entrepreneurs. Yeah, all of these engage in startups. So, who are small businesses? The most common ones: your roadside kirana store, your the food cart that you see in the evenings. Those carpenters who come and does work for you. All these are small business, in a way, small business owners. Yeah, or this small, or maybe a little manufacturing unit that you may see when one is driving down a white field or something. All of these guys are small business owners. They are also entrepreneurs. For them, it's not about starting this business for anything great. For them, it's about feeding the family and then making enough and more profit so that the family can be sustainable. They're not interested in building a business that will turn into 100 crore turnover, 200 crore turnover. It is not immediately, yeah, unless of course the future generations want to change it. Scalable startups is what we know. Obviously, a lot of scalable startups in Silicon Valley. America is the number one when it comes to startups, followed by China and then India. So scalable startups are Silicon Valley, Bangalore, or Beijing. So these are the companies that we see and hear about a lot. So whether it's your Byju's of the world, or the White Hat Juniors of the world, or the Uni Academies, or whoever, or some of those new tech startups that have cropped up, all these are scalable startups. Yeah, and for them, it's all about doing something very different, changing something. It's all about not only creating wealth, obviously, for themselves, but also creating possibly disrupting the way things are done. Right? They will get in. They set up their own teams. They will get in certain people from the industry, certain people from different other areas to kind of create that cohesive team who can work and take that idea forward. And these are the people that we read about getting this funding, failing, or even being sold for $1 billion or being acquired for a few millions of dollars. But the point is, it is scalable, right? Can a store guy, but his only scale will be he will go to another area and then open another store in the same name. So that's scale for him. Yeah. Can he convert that Kirana store into a 10,000 square feet department store? I don't know if you would like to take that risk. Very few do, but will you scale it up into a 10,000 square or 20,000 square feet business store? Question. Some may do it, most won't. At the most, the carpenter who's there, who's been, who comes and does your small work on the furniture, may add 3 or 4 more carpenters under him and take on larger projects. That's scaling for him. Yeah. Not like the way possibly a Una Academy is scaling, or a Byju's is scaling, or even a Flipkart scaled, or any of those other startups that we read about scale. Scaling could also mean not just in terms of size, but also going to different markets, serving different businesses, etc. There are so well, most large companies also started a set of, so they also they have their own challenges, they have their own processes and stuff like that, and then that's what they kind of work with. The only difference is because they're so filled with systems and processes that for them to be agile and to be disruptive, I think is a little for them difficult to really manage and execute. And of course, then there are social enterprises, the NGOs of the world, the enterprises, the social enterprises also who work in the in the betterment of the environment, or in the green space, or what they call the green entrepreneurship, green entrepreneurs. So here it is about uplifting certain communities, working with the underprivileged, working with the visually impaired, or it is about work or creating products or creating services which help better the help the environment, clean their, help the environment, better the surroundings, or even create products that are sustainable. Plastic is a Adidas today is getting into this. Right? They use all this recycle, all the trash that they get in the rivers and the sea. They take it and they recycle it and create shoes and clothing out of it. There are a couple of startups that I know who are working in the area of sustainability and more using wood and wood based stuff. So they make toothbrushes, they make cup holders and mugs and stuff like that using wood, but obviously expensive because they're catering to a very small niche audience. Or there are people there are close to about 100 plus odd startups working in the area of plant-based protein, because they're seeing an opportunity there. They expect about 10% of the population in the next 5 years to shift from meat to plant, right? And this is, I'm not talking just India's population, but 10% of the world's population shift becoming more vegetarian, but still want that their daily dose of protein. So how do they get it? Through something called plant-based protein. Now that's a huge $1 million, billion-dollar opportunity, and startups are working in that space. There are already few who are already active. How the product's priced? Obviously expensive because there's no volumes right now. But once the volumes and starts increasing, then the production also can go to scale, hopefully bringing down the same. So not all of them are for profit. Some of them profit, some of them in between. And of course, there's family businesses. I will not really touch upon this, but technically, a family business can cover all 4 of them. Usually not the social entrepreneurship, but family business can cover any of the 3. And why we've seen different type of ventures, but they're different. Within those ventures, you could have different entrepreneurial types. So people who are focused on innovation. So these are guys who bring out very new products. They're second stage entrepreneurs, main street entrepreneurs, and micro enterprise entrepreneurs. So innovation led are people who work on new things. So Apple, things like Apple, Amazon are all innovation led entrepreneurs. Whatever they do is very innovation focused, and they have enough might to put in to invest in the innovation space. here is where they see, and they're willing to take risks. They're actually willing up, create certain products and services which open up, which actually create the marketplaces, which create the demand. Yeah, this you'll now start seeing innovation in the medical space. We already started seeing it through the vaccines. There's much more to come. There's a lot more that one will start seeing. Yeah. Requires a lot of funding, and there's also what I want you to do as an exercise, and I would like maybe a group to present it possibly the next time in our next class, is study a startup called Theranos, Theranos. Yeah. Any group, any few, it need not be a group activity. Maybe a couple of you all can just join in and kind of work on it. So it's called, the startup is called Theranos. If you don't know about it, read about it and then present to me, and we could possibly have present, in class, the next session, maybe a quick 10-15 minute presentation as to what the startup is all about and what happened to it. Yeah. So huge. These kind of startups require huge amount of funding. And these innovation-led fund startups also, you'll find a lot of them in the social enterprise space, mainly in the working towards the betterment of the economy. Then second stage is where there are already startups existing. How do they expand? So what kind of investments do they need to kind of get into, to expand? Are they into new, should they get into more niche segments, or enter newer markets to operate in? Smoor, a little startup in the F&B space I know is Smoor, which is the ones who make these fancy desserts and all that, cakes and desserts. Now they are operating in Bangalore. They're already at a particular size in Bangalore. Now they're moving to Bombay. They're moving to Hyderabad. Right? So startups like these, or a startup like Byju's. Byju's was completely online. They've now gone and invested in Akash Academy. Why? Because they wanted a offline footprint. Because they also realized there are a set of population who do not like to sit online, not because they don't have access. Yeah, possibly they may not have access to the right kind of equipment at home. But they would like to go to a class, sit in a class, and study. So they've invested in Akash. Right? This is, right? The Kirana stores, the Main Street entrepreneurs, the coffee shop owner, the little cart on the side. So here, of course, in the second stage, the exit level is obviously setting out for a larger valuation. Usually the succession plan is not much. You very rarely will a family member get involved in this. Whereas here, it's a family member who may get involved in the business and continue it. And of course, micro enterprise are the people who work with very small monies, who work on a very daily, who take those microfinances and work using that. So Grameen Bank or Kiva or Rangde are some of the micro entrepreneurs who are there right now and quite popular. Yeah, Kiva is of course the world. Grameen Bank was the ones who founded micro entrepreneurship. Kiva is of course one of the world's largest, and they have beneficiaries across the world, especially in countries like Colombia, India, some other countries in Africa. So while we studied who's an entrepreneur, we also learned a little about bit about entrepreneurship. Let's try and understand now how to start up the entire journey. So there are three methods that one can use to start up a journey, right? One is, if you're an entrepreneur, you can actually come up with an idea and start a new venture, or you have money, you don't have the patience to start a new venture. So what you'll do is you'll acquire an existing venture, or the third option is to get a franchising, which is also called the hybrid model. All of these models have the advantages in this, and we've also got pros and cons. So we'll see what these are. creating the bench obviously is the best way. Develop something completely unique, but this is few and far in between, right? Normally, this unique product was never being offered. So whatever is new, I mean, whatever that you come up with will always be new in the marketplace and will always find its takers. Otherwise, if you can't create something new, then if imagine this, the other option is to, if there is certain solutions existing, you add a better feature and then create something on your own and sell it out market and go and talk to very similar clients and say, hey, you know what, this product that you're using only does this, but if you use mine, it does this because I have that as the feature I've built in. Yeah. So in the first one, it's called a new, from a very textbook perspective, the first approach, which is where you completely start up a new venture, is called a new approach. And the second one is called a new old approach. Why? Because you're taking something which is already there and then giving it a slightly new twist. The new approach, it's, while we see a lot of new products and services like TVs and phones, but these are all usually improvements. So if you say the 1+ model of 1+8 and 1+9, it's just the improvement over 1+8. What is the difference? It's got a better chip, a newer processor, and possibly the screen's resolution is different, and whatever, right? But Apple was a completely new product, or an iPod or an Apple or any of those, or an Instagram is a completely new, unique product or a service that was offered. So these you'll find only very few. So anything that's now today, you'll find a lot of it in the medical space, in the biotechnology space, and also in the eco entrepreneurship space. So things from recycled plastic, picking up, using recycled plastic to make roads, using recycled plastic to create, construction bricks for houses, etc., are all part of the new approach, where this is right now not being offered. So it's something very unique. And most of the ideas that we see, most of the ideas that come up comes from people experiences. So there is an experience that you would have possibly had, and you had a problem with that, and the only way to do it is to come out with a solution. Electric vehicles is here in this space right now. While there are organizations building electric vehicles, there is a huge opportunity, I think, which I can think of, which is basically how do you have charging stations within the city and possibly on highways, etc., so the electric vehicles can go and charge. Because electric vehicles have got certain limit to how much they can run on a charge. And how do ideas come in? Ideas come in through hobbies, interests. So either your previous job, you're working in an organization, and then you realize that there is an opportunity which your current product that you're working on does not fulfill, and that makes you step out and create that product and offer it to the market. New old approach is where there's an existing product or existing similar product or a service already there. What layer are you adding? Classic example here is Swiggy came and obviously revolutionized something, right? All of us love to go and eat outside, but we couldn't. It was not easy to go outside every day in case you were one of those foodies and then want to experience different kind of cuisine. You could do it. You couldn't do it every day. Possibly you could have done it once, twice a week, thrice a week. I mean, twice a month, thrice a month, and then you do it every month. But Swiggy came and said, "Hey, you know what? You keep going to the same restaurant. I'll come and I'll kind of open it up. You sit at home and you order from your favorite restaurant, and not just one. You can order from any restaurant that you want, which is within delivery, within the distance of within. If it's a deliverable distance, we'll deliver it to you." Yeah. Now Swiggy did that. Yes, it created a completely new paradigm shift. Now, what did Dunzo do? Are Dunzo and Swiggy similar?
Swiggy delivers only.
I'm asking you a question, so I think love some participation from the class.
Yeah, Professor, you are able to hear me? Hello.
Go ahead, Anil. At least we are able to hear you.
Nobody?
Yeah, no, but
Am I
hello,
audible? I
Professor.
mean, I'm now worried, but I'm audible, and you guys could hear me all this while.
Professor, they're talking, but you're unable to hear. Professor, can you hear me? Hello?
Hello. I don't think Professor is able to hear us.
Yeah, exactly.
Not able to hear you. Wait 1 second. Huh? Can give me a second. Why am I not able to hear you? Oh, can somebody speak?
Can you hear me, Professor? This is Deepika. Hello?
No, I'm not able to hear you guys at all.
Yeah, we are speaking, Professor, but you're not able to hear us.
Okay, Nashad, give me a second. I don't know why. Okay, now can somebody speak?
Can you hear me, Professor?
Yeah, now I can hear. Yeah, okay.
Okay. Sorry. So Deepika here. I would
Yes.
like to just
Sure.
provide my insight there. So Swiggy is actually delivering of all the food items, generally like the ones what you order from the restaurant, already prepared ones. And Dunzo is where actually you will get the
Right.
food also, and you can do some courier service or groceries, all those things also you can get from Dunzo. So slightly bit variation, but most of the times based on the current scenario in a same city, if you want to use courier service, right, people are mostly opting for Dunzo. That's what I have seen.
Okay. Point there. Yeah. Go ahead.
Options are
Any other input?
But somebody else, Professor, not me.
Yeah, I know. Any more? Anybody would like to add?
Yeah, Professor.
Actually, Dunzo did not come up with a new idea. So they took up what Swiggy already had and they just improvised on it. So so they did not have to advertise more also. So people knew that people could actually trust, because they were actually trusting on Swiggy. They could easily trust on Dunzo also. So it got easier to them.
Okay.
But with a wider market and more different opportunities.
Okay.
Yeah, Professor, adding to that, the both of them are uh, focused on different segment of customers. Like Swiggy is mainly focused only on from business to the customer, right? From hotels and restaurants to the customers delivering the food. Whereas Dunzo was initially started with only courier kind of service, not from business to customers. But later on, based on the situation demand, they adopted their strategy and moved to even from the food delivery segment as well.
Okay, I hear you.
Professor Rajesh here.
Yeah,
Adding to Anil's points, truly have been extensively using Swiggy and Dunzo of late these years.
right.
So, in addition to those points, what happened? Dunzo has tied up with the existing retail outlets in order to supply all the groceries. But whereas Swiggy, they started their own Instamart, having their own set of infrastructure and grocery collections as a wholesale distributor, something like that. But Dunzo adopted, tying up with the existing vendors where you can walk in and grab the groceries. That's one point. And second point is that Dunzo, like the way as we have heard, Dunzo, they have been only specific to some set of earlier days. They have been only specific to some set of assigning tasks in terms of courier or anything else inside the city. But then gradually they started adopting these models. And Swiggy also looked at this model and they started something called Swiggy Jenny by using all these food delivery guys to deliver the packages and the groceries and so on.
Okay.
So, Professor, this is Hemant.
Yeah.
So how I see this is, so Swiggy initially started with the services that they were offering. So, and Dunzo saw, so Dunzo wanted to start a business and then they saw an opportunity. So because already there were a few players already playing in the market on food delivery business. So what Dunzo did is they wanted to find that sweet spot of blue ocean in that red ocean. So what they did is like they targeted more crowd by connecting people to people rather than connecting restaurants to people. So that is where their value proposition came into picture, and that was their USP. So seeing this, even Swiggy started to worry, and they brought in a concept of Swiggy Genie. So I think now they are competing neck to neck.
Yeah, I think I kind of well, all of y'all had valid points to add. I think the last, I think he kind of hit it on the head. What Dunzo did was that Dunzo is changing the way even we look at delivery, right? While Swiggy, obviously, will I use Swiggy for getting my groceries? No, I won't, because I know Swiggy associates itself with food so strongly that I know Swiggy. The first thing what I want, I'll reach out to Swiggy for them to deliver my food. But if I want to get something, say from a store, I don't want to go to, if you're a true Bangalorean, I don't want to go to Basangudi or Gandhi Bazaar and get those traditional stuff from there. I just, when I want to stay safe and I want to stay at home. So I Dunzo it, right? So Dunzo is actually areas to change the way we look and the way we kind of, and that's a complete, and actually, while it may seem like taking a similar model, and all these models are more or less similar, right? Everything is all logistics play, which is all about delivery. While it uses the same base, but it's just in the way the entire the offering is structured that's different. And the advantage that Dunzo has is it is actually changing habits. Yeah, unlike Swiggy, and Swiggy actually struggling in the other two departments. That's why Swiggy, in addition to food, quickly started Instamart and Genie with the hope that they can also, grab a little bit of share, but they're finding it very, very difficult to succeed in that space. Yeah. Great. So that's where I think the new old approach really comes in. There is something even in the CRM space, right? In the marketing automation space, there are certain solutions that are there. And then you will have somebody who will come and say, I can integrate this with that particular product, which will actually help you. But like we said, there are whether it's a new approach or a new approach or whatever. It's not about gut feel, right? There's a lot of preparation, planning, analysis, and thought process that is required. But when you're launching the venture. The second option is if you don't have the patience to start one or patience to go through the rigor of setting up a completely new venture, you can acquire one. So prospective entrepreneur, if he's got enough and more money in him, or has access to uh, funds, if the entrepreneur has got access to funds, can go out and actually acquire an existing venture. Yeah. It can be successful because possibly the guy who's going to buy it and that particular venture may have better ideas into actually growing the whole thing, right? But it is a complex transaction, and you cannot do it alone. You obviously need a team. Even large organizations look at people like uh, some of the big investment bankers or to come in and then start doing some of the deals. So there's a lot of due diligence that's involved and required. And the reason to acquire an existing venture also could depend on the kind of personal preferences that the person has. So if I'm very strong in the technical space and I want to, I have, and I want to really work with, I'm not only technical, but I know that something like customer experience is a big thing. I may go but I don't want to start, and I know that there are certain things that need to be done to really improve customer experience. I may go and buy instead of starting up my own venture, which may take me another 12 months to start, and then fight it out with the existing player. I may go and buy out somebody and then improve the product and then go forward in that. Yeah. So how does one go about it? Obviously, there are different methods. There are you want to network. You understand from the fraternity what is really happening. There are startups who will advertise saying that, hey, we are up for sale, and they do it. It's not done literally in the publication, but at least on LinkedIn on that, I've seen a couple of startup founders actually writing saying that, hey, they're willing to consider external options. Right? So networks, communities, different professional sources. So I know somebody who knows somebody, and that's how we can connect up. Advantages of acquiring a venture: obviously, the enterprise is already in operation. It could be successful because the new guy who's buying it may come in with a lot more experience, better thought process. You don't lose time. Somebody already has done the hard work, and it's going to be then you building on that platform, and it could be got at a good price, right? Simple. Reliance wanted to enter the online furniture space. So what did he do? They went and bought Urban Ladder. Urban Ladder was 2 years ago was valued at $700 million, 700 crores. Yeah, finally, how much did Urban Ladder get sold for? 70 crores, right? So things like that can happen. Or Tata's a year ago, or just before the pandemic, set up a team to work on omni-channel retailing, right? Which means that Star Bazaar, they wanted to see how they can actually get people to go onto the Star Bazaar site, order, and stuff getting delivered home or picked up at the store or whatever. But the pandemic changed all that. It became a little bit difficult to kind of get into an omni kind of platform. So what did the only other thing that Tata did was they went and got Big Basket. I was expecting them to go pick up grocers or any of the other ones, but they went and picked up 60-70% stake in Big Basket for about a little over $1 billion. So things like that can definitely happen. But while I'm not saying there are no disadvantages in the older methods of the new method, when you come up with something new, for some time it will be a novelty, right? The iPhone became a novelty, was a huge novelty. It's still an aspiration, and that's why the price themselves so high and completely keep it out of bounds. But what happens is there are similar lookalikes, cheaper lookalikes, may not be an iPhone, but the Androids do far better. And within Android itself is such uh, a varied price benchmark, a price band, right? So there are advantages. So how do you once if you think that it's worth it investing, what do you do? Once after you look at whom you're going to invest in, you'll have to start doing the due diligence, right? What are the products that the existing startup is going through? What kind of price will it be sold at? Who are the owners? What kind of personality? What was the issues? Did they have an issue? Did they have some, were there any problems associated with them? What is the product that they're building? What is the acceptance of the product in the marketplace? What are the environment they're operating? What are the cash flows of the startup? Do they have enough profits, enough sales? What are the inventories? Do they have their own office? What kind of teams? Size of team? What will you do with the team? Will you retain them? Part retain them, part whatever acquire, whatever you, right? What are the questions that one needs to ask? Why is the business being sold? The current status of the business. If there are any inventories, if it's a manufacturing unit, what are the inventory? What is the status of the inventory? How many loans? How much loan was taken? How much loan has to be cleared off, etc., etc. Stuff like that. Who's the competition? Where the competition coming from? Which is direct, which is indirect? And then once you do all that, then you get into the negotiation of deal. So what do you look at? How soon does the owner wants to sell it? If he wants to sell it very quickly, that means you'll get a better deal. But he wants to take its time, and it depends, because or am I desperate to buy the business? I'm seeing a great opportunity. Yeah, then it is obviously he's going to obviously hike his price up. So negotiations will be a very long drawn affair. Or is it that the startup that I'm buying, there is a problem with the founders? Right? The founders are not getting along, and one of them wants to pull out completely, and is creating a problem, and wants to pull out his investment and step out. So the other guy is obviously has got no choice but to give up the business. So what are the kind of do's and don'ts that one looks at in a situation like this? One is clearly, if one is investing in a business like this, ensure that the current owner does not come back and say, I'll hold a minority stake. Yeah. Obviously, everything has to be written, common sense. Get a professional audit firm to look at the books, check cash flows, etc. Do your own investigations, possibly speak to the employees who are already working, and find out the actual reason the companies for sale. The reason could be something else. But the best option, I think, personally, I believe is taking up a franchising, unless of course you have the patience to create something and then take it on and run with it, and spend to the grind and creating that market, creating that platform, creating the market, going out, selling it, etc. The best option, I think, is what we call the hybrid option, or taking up franchising. Yeah. So if there's an opportunity, why not open up a McDonald's in your locality? Yes, it requires hard work. I'm not saying it is not. It is easy. Maybe slightly easier in the sense that you are going to ride on the brand power of brand like of McDonald's, and McDonald's would possibly quickly pull in the crowd, because there is a certain crowd that will automatically knows the brand and want to come in, and there's a McDonald's pretty close by, so and accessible. So it's usually done in the QSR salons and restaurant space, retail stores. Some of the retail stores are franchise stores, so Levi's is a brand that uses franchises a lot. What do you need? Obviously, you need to make a financial investment in the operation, and then you have to follow up a lot of systems and processes that they would set in terms of how the entire thing is designed, the kind of space, how does the entire thing needs to look like. Then obviously the brand is example. If you're doing for McDonald's, McDonald's will have their own guidelines as to how the logo will come, what kind of process they will train the staff, etc. They will give you, the kind of bidding machines that has to be used, what kind of menus has to be made, the way your entire kitchen is structured, etc., etc. So all of it follows a very standardized process. So that's what and from a franchisor perspective, yes, I have a McDonald's franchisee. Yeah, I ensure that my team and me get professional training, etc., etc. A lot of assistance by means of marketing, possibly even they themselves could help in terms of providing a loan, which I'll pay off from the profits that I have on the sales that I. So it could be a revenue sharing option which will be used to pay off any investments that McDonald's has made. But there are problems. Obviously, there are a lot of advantages if you get the right brand. To be a franchise of the right brand. You don't have to do much, but it will be expensive. Whereas on the other side, you may not get proper support. The brand may not be as popular as you imagine it to be, and even if you want to pull out, will you get the money back, etc. Needs to be tested. Yeah. So, what are the kind of things you look at? So, how you evaluate the entire opportunity? How do you decide if it's a good deal, worth it, or the kind of investment? So, to your investment, what is the ROI that you're expecting? Speak to other franchisee owners. So if there is a franchisee maybe within 3-kilometer radius, go and speak to that guy and find out how he or she is doing. Look at, do your own market study, do your own market customer feedback to kind of ascertain whether it will be whether the location is good, etc. Always go into helping, actually evaluating the opportunity for setting up a franchise. So what I'll do is I'll stop here for now. It's about 3:05, and we'll catch up in about 15-20 minutes. Okay.
Sure, Professor.
All right, welcome back. Let's try and kind of wrap today's session up in the next hour or so. Yeah. So what we did in the first half is try and understand why this focus on entrepreneurship. Why does it? Learning about entrepreneurship can actually help you possibly structure your thought process much better. Who is an entrepreneur? Who is an entrepreneur? What is entrepreneurship? What are kind of different ventures one can get into? One can get into if you're thinking of a entrepreneurial journey. So what to get onto the entrepreneurial journey? What do we need? Right? There are certain things that an entrepreneur would need. Which is obviously comes with the mindset and the persona. There are certain personas that these entrepreneurs display or these entrepreneurs possess. So let's kind of understand what they are, and why is it required. So the overall canvas today is, individuals are open to starting their own ventures. Am I audible?
Yes,
Yes,
Professor.
Professor.
Yes, Professor.
Great. So individuals are open to starting their own ventures. Age is not really a factor. You see 17-year-olds. You can see possibly you read about 17-year-olds having their own startups. About 10-15 years ago, I think there was only one 17-year-old who started. I forget the name of the company he started, but today you have quite a few of them who've done that, and there's somebody even at 60 who's gone and set up his own venture, right? So age is not really a factor, but there is something that motivates them to choose this particular path. Maybe one of the things that is that corporate life isn't motivating for them anymore. Yeah. While we know it is entrepreneurship is a mindset, but what does go into making the characters, the traits of an entrepreneur? And that's what we'll study in this little segment in the next half an hour or so. Yeah. So basically, it's a set of skills that enable people to identify and make the most of the opportunities, overcome and learn setbacks, and succeed in a variety of things. And the mindset also includes elements associated with the dark side. Right? So we know who are entrepreneurs. They take risks, they start a business, more an idea, requires sound judgment planning. They're driven by an intense, it's not intense, it's intense commitment and determined perseverance. Complete desire to excel, high levels of integrity, use failure as a learning. And failure could be caused by so many other reasons, right? External factors like the pandemic could be a reason for failure. Wrong teams, incompetency of the founder himself or the partners, inexperience, and even choosing the wrong teams. So where do you get all this study material from? Yeah. So one is obviously you read interviews about the entrepreneurs. You read case studies about entrepreneurship, entrepreneurial ventures. You look at research publications. You look at your own. Possibly you've gone and spoken to, you've interviewed or had one-on-one conversations with a few entrepreneurs to understand. And then there are seminars and conferences that you can attend where these entrepreneurs would speak, and they will be talking about possibly their history, their journey, their personal life, and so on and so. So, yeah. So where do you look at this information? And there's obviously enough and more information on the internet, including this website called yourstory.com. Well, I think it's practically captured every entrepreneurial venture that's there in India over the last 6-7 years of its existence. So one of the ways also is to understand more about entrepreneurs by shadowing them, doing interviews, like I said, conducting interviews. And the other, last but not the least, is of course attend seminars, conferences, etc., where they give a speech. But you could also go and become part of incubation cells, right? Or in certain universities, like the Anand Sagar has got the Darby, which is a couple of floors above where the executive management center is. And Dhabi is nothing but an incubation center or an entrepreneur residence program, or it's an entrepreneur in residence program. So here, as part of the interactions, external the incubation cell could bring in external entrepreneurs to come, external people who are entrepreneurs to come and speak. So let's understand if all of this, if there's information about them and all that, but what is it that really makes them tick, right? Why do they have this drive? Why do they have this? And I can say for sure, and very confidently, after interacting with these about 7, 8, or 10 pairs of entrepreneurs, there are certain common traits that they all possess. It's like the complete, it's the determination, the commitment, right? And the perseverance that they have to grow. If the pandemic has come, how do they kind of circumvent it? How do they get over it? How do they kind of find a way out? How do they, what is called the pivot? Yeah. They want to achieve, they want to grow. The whole thing is, I want to get to that goal. My goal is, I think they plan it out in milestones, right? 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, whatever, right? And then everything is this milestone is crossed, recorded, and then the next milestone is then targeted. Trying to solve constantly the ability to solve problems. Good listeners. Seek feedback, both positive and negative. Even at a very young age, can have very mature shoulders. I'm sorry, can have very, very mature heads on their shoulders, on young shoulders. Right? Ability to take a very calculated risk. I'm not saying risk. They're not risk averse, but nor are they heavy risk takers, but very calculated, right? They know exactly when to take, what to take. They know status and power will come. It doesn't have to be immediate. And very, very integral, very, very strong on ethics. That's one thing that I found in 9 out of the 10 entrepreneur pairs that I've spoken to, very strong on ethics. One obviously had absolutely no ethics altogether. So there are a lot of studies that have been done, and I think there are close to about 40 or 50, 30 or 40 different traits that that have been put together, like things like obviously confidence, resourcefulness, ability to get things done, ability to influence people, good people managers, visionaries, ability to take decisions very quickly, even though and keeping in mind a lot of other factors, and the need to succeed, right? The need to even Ahmedabad has done a research, so there is a lot of information around this. There are about 42, but things like empathy and humility also is required, and you have to be a hustler, right? So being empathetical, because you are dealing with different people, you're dealing with vendors, you're dealing with suppliers, you're dealing with your own team, your own employees, you're dealing with founders, you're dealing with investors, and if you're a social entrepreneur, then you're dealing with government agencies and other stakeholders. Yeah. So there is a need to be empathetical, because it becomes very difficult when you're dealing with so many different diverse kind of people. Yeah. Well, this captures most of it, the 42, but I just added 2 more, which is empathy, humility, and I can add 1 more, which is you have to be a hustler, and hustler in a very positive sense, where you're you are hell bent on going after what you really deserve and want. So if I have to break it down and go in deep into what some of these mean, so what does commitment, determination, perseverance mean? You have to be willingness to mortgage a house. Right? There's a small startup called BluePay. I don't know how they're doing right now, but I remember 3-4 years ago, BluePay was developing a mobile-based POS solution. For some reason, couldn't crack it. Needed money, couldn't get much funding. Sold his car. His kids were in a certain school. Scaled them down so he didn't have to pay as much fees as he was paying in the current in the slightly upmarket school, mortgage the house, right, and then reinitiate the entire process of taking his business forward. Yeah, thankfully for him, the Future Group gave him a long-term contract with some of the stores, right, which kind of set him, I think, kind of put him on the right track. If you're used to with a good 5-figure corporate salary, if you're used to taking a holiday every year, you'll possibly have to cut down on your holidays. Yeah, reduce your standard of living. If you're used to eating out 3 to 4 times a month, you have to reduce it to maybe one or none at all for some time. Yeah, you have to put your own savings into the startup. Take no money. You just on the 30th of the month you would get a SMS with your salary. Today you don't have that luxury. You're sacrificing family time because you're hell-bent, you're focused on driving the business, on growing the business. Ability to overcome obstacles and setbacks. Know they're going to come. Know they will pass, and live through it day after day. The drive to achieve. Nobody's going to push you. Yes, while they say an entrepreneur does not have a boss and you're your own boss, your own thing, but there is a boss. There is. Your customer is your boss. Your investor could be breathing down your neck. Yeah. To pay your employee salaries, you need to ensure the business has to run. So there is that something is there. You're accountable for something, right? So yeah, so then strong drive to achieve. Yeah, you have to get up in the morning and then push yourself to drive, because that energy will kind of reflect onto your team. You go in with a kind of a very soft energy, very defeatist kind of energy. It is going to reflect on the team. How do you see opportunities? How do you set those goals and then go after them? How do you really look at a pivot? Now, the pandemic was a great example of a lot of startups pivoting. Yeah, brands suddenly realized that people were moving more toward the digital medium. So how did they shift? Some brands were already there. Some brands had to kind of quickly, scrape everything together and then run and set up their own websites to start getting people to shop online. More spends instead of spending for print ads in Times of India and all that. People had to now reroute the monies and increase their social media exposure. So a lot of mind shifts happened and a lot of pivots happened. Startups pivoted from following a certain track. When they knew things did not work, they had to shift. Unfortunately, as an entrepreneur, one becomes very extremely responsible for, very accountable, and takes in all the responsibility. So success or failure becomes, especially failure becomes the entrepreneur's responsibility. There are times that you may not have a sales head, right? You could have a founder who could be more tuned to finance. You could have one guy who's more technical, and the third person would possibly be a people's manager and maybe the CEO, whatever, right? But there's no professional salesperson. All three of them, or one of them, will have to take that mantle of a sales leader and then go out and then start selling. Constantly ability to solve problems. How do you do it? You can't do it on your own. Obviously, you'll go consult with your entrepreneur, the other founding members, or you'll go to your investor, or you'll go to your board of directors, or you go to a mentor, or go to somebody. But ability to solve problems needs to come through, and not just solve problem just for the sake of it, but with the complete pulse of what's really happening in the market, because the decision that one takes has an impact. Ability to ask for feedback, both positive and negative, learn from the negative feedback, learn from the positive feedback, move forward, continue to improve. Ability to give feedback, yeah, communicate, transparency in terms of communication between the teams. Yeah. How do they feel that they are? Yes, of course. This could tend to a little bit of egocentric, massaging, but most people have to ensure that they don't get into this kind of a zone. Ambiguity does not bother them. Job security and retirement are of no concern, right? So enjoy every day of their journey. Not a gambler, not a very heavy risk taker, nor are they risk averse, but the know how what kind of calculated risk to take, because you're putting in somebody else, your own money and somebody else's money into a startup. So that itself is a risk. Highly integral. Highly integrity levels have to be extremely high. High energy levels, because if you don't have if you don't exude that positive energy, then you're not going to get it from your team. Your team is not going to resonate to reflect that. Know you will fail and accept failure. It is going to hurt. Failure will definitely hurt. Yeah. And this is something I think most Indian organizations, and even why Indian organizations, I think as a society, we don't tolerate is failure. Failure is seen as a like, it's like that person is no good. But I think there's more learning and there's more positivity in failure than there is in success. So success is temporary. Vision, and I say vision because you need to know what you're going to do 24 months down the line, and ensure that your team also knows that. Yeah, then self-coordinated team building, etc., etc. A lot of these, yeah. So basically, entrepreneurs, most entrepreneurs think they're artists, right? They look at the entire thing, their entire the opportunity or the idea as a canvas, and then start painting it and create it and then paint it till it's completely finished. But unlike an artist who will finish a painting and then move on to the next one, entrepreneurs don't. The process of bettering it only go and growing it continues. Unless, of course, these entrepreneurs finish the painting, set it off, and start something else. Yeah, like a serial entrepreneur. So what are the kind of things that they do is look at opportunities, look at the ventures, and the entrepreneur themselves. Yeah. But one of the key things, while entrepreneur's journeys are fantastic, and there's a lot of good things, and we read and hear about them, but there's also something called the dark side, right? Like a coin, entrepreneurship also has got two sides to it. One is obviously the positive side, and then there is the dark side. And why dark side? Because whatever you do, because the way you tune yourself, the way you behave, the way the skills that you've picked up, or the way you operate, the complete pushing yourself to your drive to do something, your inability to to have a great social life, all of this has a fallback effect, right? Like everyone publishes focus on reward, success, and achievements, but there's also a dark side, something called failure, and that's why I guess people don't write too much about it. Yeah. And this is something that researchers have acknowledged and say this area needs to be treated first, or at least entrepreneurs need to be made aware of this area first, and not just the fact that they need to have certain strengths and skill set, right? And the dark side could actually end up dominating their entire behavior. And that's why I said, look at that startup called Theranos. And I want somebody to present it on 17th, right? It'll take about 2 days to study it and put together 5-10 slides on that. While factors possess a positive aspect, entrepreneurs need to understand potential destructive side as well. So when you're starting a business or buying a business, it involves risk. Yeah, the higher the rewards, greater the risk. Financial risk is of course high because you are putting in your own money. You're putting in somebody else's money. So this itself, something happens in the business. You might realize that your ability to lose that money is pretty high. So what are the kind of different risks that entrepreneurs face, right? Financial risk, career risk, family and social risk, and a psychic risk. Let's try and understand a little more about these. Financial risk, because it's a new venture, you will first start up. Most new ventures are bootstrapped. So bootstrapping, how does the money come in? You either put in your own money or you borrow from friends and family. Yeah. If it fails, the money is gone. Your savings are gone. Sometimes you may not even kept a contingency fund. Right? Um, you have to borrow. You may borrow in excess. Personal bankruptcy. You've taken bank loans, even though you'll have to give up the house. You'll have to give up your car. You'll have to give up certain luxuries because you've taken money from an external source and you need to repay it back. You left a great job to start up something on your own, and then you realize that there's no security. There's no SMS SMS alert that comes on the 30th of the month. Are you able, even if you have failed after a year or 18 months, do you have the ability to go back to a corporate career? Can you go back to your old company and join them back again? They may take you back, right? But this 18 months of you working alone without answering to someone and you being answerable to yourself has created a mind shift. So there are a lot of things. It's not about just going back. So there are a lot of things that one needs to keep in mind. And then once you go back, will you be accepted or will you be seen as someone who's failed? Yeah, that's some point. I'm talking this is reality. This is reality. Yeah. Family and social risk. Because of the time you put in to build a new venture, it puts pressure on family commitments. You may not have enough time to spend with family. You end up losing friendships. There's no social life, at least for the first 12, 18 months. And a lot of the fact that you're pushing yourself every day, coming to office, or to meetings in a very positive frame of mind, has a flip effect to it. It's the psychological effect, or something has gone wrong. There's a financial risk or a career risk. It can impact the stress that starts developing. There's a psychological impact. You do get into mental stress. You do get into overall health starts deteriorating. So to achieve something, you pay a pretty high price, often suffering from physical and mental problems. Your goals take precedence, and hence willingness to tolerate stress gets low. You sometimes even put health on a back burner, just to ensure that you're rewarded with success. 2 is interacting with different people, right? Not everybody will behave the same way. Your employees could be good to you. You may be nice to them. You're talking to investors. Investors are not going to be nice beyond a point. They are going to be hard. You're playing different roles of a salesperson, marketer. You're negotiating. You're solving somebody's problem within the office. There's a vendor calling you for payments. Yeah. There's this lawyer or legal counsel who's breathing down your neck saying that, hey, this compliance has to be done, that compliance has to be done. So all of this kind of then can have a pretty adverse effect. And there's only that much time that you have to finish a lot of this. And usually entrepreneurs beyond a certain point start working alone. Yeah. It's either them or just the co-founders and maybe 1 or 2 other staff, right? Is that enough? No, there's lack of support that really you become very aggressive because of the fact that you're going to stress, become abusive, become aggressive. You suddenly, the only thing that you now then do is because you don't want to fail, you just put all your energies into work. So there's a lot of excessive responsibility that they start taking in. And what happens? Finally, they end up being lonely. While they have people around them, but they don't have anybody. Yeah, it's a very strange kind of feeling. They have a family at home, but the family, it's like, I don't know, it's as if they're in a bubble. Yeah, they're living in their own world. Because there are a lot of pressures coming in. Yeah. Investors, vendors, suppliers. You have to ensure that your employees are paid, or you have to let go of your employees. Yeah. You're not socializing. There's nobody to talk to. There's nobody who understands the problem, because the only thing that when you start talking, the first thing is why do you, who asked you to start the business, right? We are Indians after all. That's how we behave. Nobody will try and give you a very practical solution to the kind of problem you're facing. So what you do, because of the fact that you're not getting the support within your circle, you put the entire mind goes into the business, which means that it's like a horse. And in doing that, you tend to forget what's really happening outside. Or there are some entrepreneurs who just have this immense drive to achieve. They have to kind of get into, come what may, we will succeed, right? And then your behavior, your body language, your completely changes. So it's like a bull in a china shop at times. And you don't realize that when you're doing that, there's a lot of china that's being destroyed, which could mean that you're rubbing your customers on the wrong side. You're losing sales deals because you're aggressive. You're not able to price it well. So yeah. So what I'm trying to do here and highlight the entire thing is the journey of an entrepreneur is not an easy one. Yeah. It has its, of course, it has its positives, but there are negatives that one needs to be. I'm not saying that corporate, someone working in a corporate sector, or I think does not have pressures of their own, but there's a larger infrastructure that can take the pressure, yeah. Unless, of course, it's very politically motivated within the organization. So entrepreneurs have to be given that understanding that, hey, that all stress is not bad, right? There's a need to let it out. So whether you want to take up meditation, whether you need to talk to somebody, that's why there's a recommendation is that have a co-founder or two, because then at least there is a team immediate team who understands what you're going through, and then helps you, get it out. Yeah, there's need to talk about it, and talk about it with anybody and everybody. But importantly, before even the corrective measures can be taken, I think the entrepreneurs themselves have to acknowledge that they are going through a stressful period. Yeah. So if that realization does not happen, then it's difficult. So how do entrepreneurs cope up with stress? Networking. If you don't want to, yes, you have your own immediate co-founders to talk to, but if you don't want, if you think they are not good enough, can you go and network within the fraternity? Talk to other entrepreneurs. Talk to outside professionals, right? Sometimes it is good just to shut down and completely cut yourself off from everything, even if it is for a day. Yeah, it possibly will help you rejuvenate. Talk to your employees, even if you think that maybe you're afraid that your stress can spill onto them. Talk to them, because when talking to them, you don't know how people can help people. Yeah, when things are shared. And if you want to, most entrepreneurs that I've seen at least 2 or 3 of them who would like to own everything. The art of delegation is not there. Why? Because they fear that if they are not involved, it will fail. Yeah. There's a need to let go. There's a need to realize that, hey, there's a team for a very specific reason. And have the confidence that a team can actually deliver and take up the responsibility and deliver. Yeah. Yeah, I'll kind of skip this because I think it's pretty kind of understandable. The fact that the need of control, everything has to go through them. They need to know what's happening across within the organization. And the ability to easily mistrust somebody is very high. Sometimes some of them would come in with a very false sense of optimism.
Professor, I have
Yeah.
a question. So it says loss of empathy, but empathy is what makes customers, we gain the trust of customers, right?
Yes.
So this, I was thinking how it will result in loss of empathy.
No. What I'm trying to say is, because of the different stress factors, right? Because of the fact that an entrepreneur is going through certain challenges, yeah, it could make him unempathetic, right? Because he's so focused on solving the business problem and ensuring the business does not fail, that he may realize that the interpersonal relationship may start failing. Yeah, his people management skills may drop.
Got it. Thanks.
That's what or the other part of it, the other flip side of it is, if the venture is seeing quick success, yeah, has seen success. I'm here. What I kind of detailed out of situation is where things are not going right. Things are not going your way. So obviously, what is the impact of that? Or what happens if things are going much more than your way? In a sense, you've just started within 6 months. You've kind of achieved, $1 million revenue or $2 million revenue, whatever. So what does it give you? What does that make you? It suddenly leads you to become. You think you are God's gift to mankind. Yeah, you become arrogant. You become defiant, saying, "I know it all. Who are you to tell me?" Right?
Yes.
That also is the other side of it.
Got it.
Yeah. So that also can be, because then it's like then also you lose empathy, but for a very different reason. And the other thing is while I think scenario, what that is more common is when things are not going one's way, is also because you have to push yourself every morning, right? You would have to do it even today. But from a corporate standpoint and from an overall standpoint, even if you have a bad day, it's okay. Yeah, because there's somebody else covering up for you. But when you're a founder and when you have 10, 15 employees, you have to come across as extremely positive. So every day you have to, it's what is called toxic positivity. There's something called toxic negativity, but there's something called toxic positivity. Yeah. Because you're pushing yourself and making yourself appear as extremely positive and with a lot of enthusiasm, to ensure that the team also sees that, has also an adverse effect, because you're creating that scenario in your mind, and then but you know what the reality is. Yeah, so there are different motivations, why what drive entrepreneurs. So the fact that they something new, and most of the entrepreneurs I see are today, at least, are looking. Most of the guys today who have come want to obviously exit with pretty large valuations. Yeah, while they will not say it, but deep down inside, they want to ensure that they get good valuations on their the ventures. Yeah. The fact that why is it only that those guys, even I'm contributing something to society, yeah, and I need to be recognized for that. So there are a lot of motivational pointers that come about. So it could be whatever, right? I'm not going to get into this diagram, but like what motivates some of your, yeah, today, even I don't know how many are any entrepreneurs there. There are not too many on the call, but any entrepreneurs or budding entrepreneurs, or were entrepreneurs, but failed and have come back to corporate life to get a little more experience and go back again. Each one has a motivation factor, right?
I've done that, Professor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Failed in one venture, exited out of one venture successfully, and
super.
Currently,
then you should share your. I mean, love to hear your experience and learning.
Sure, anytime, Professor.
You can want to do it now. You can do it now.
Yeah. So the first one was for a span of 3 years. We ventured into a franchisee for a food business with very little understanding of what it took.
Okay.
Okay. Just a quick background about me. I am from IT background and very interested in doing something of my own for a very long time now. So it started from that perspective. We entered into that. To be a little bit more specific, we took a franchisee for Goli Vada Pav. Ran it successfully for 3.5 years. We did have a successful exit out of that, but good thing that we learned is more from a customer interaction. How do we generate revenues, not just from the storefront, but also from involving ourselves in a lot of other avenues, right? I mean, we did have our stalls and this IPL matches and a couple of other functions, so on and so forth.
Right.
So we did learn that unless we get involved in some of these things, especially these small businesses, and we rely on somebody else.
Hello. I just lost you.
Everyone else will tend to make money except for us.
Right.
So, and it came to a point where, it was becoming a little bit hard for us to engage ourselves on a day-to-day basis. And while we were not a loss-making entity, we started thinking on whether the time we are investing is worthwhile the money that we were making. And that's when we decided to exit out of that.
Okay.
Second one that we got hit really bad was, I purchased a fitness center a year back to COVID started. So of course that was on, so this is again the second model that you explained, Professor, where we went ahead and we purchased an existing establishment. Of course, since it was running really well, we had to pay a premium for that, and then it went well for a year before COVID hit us, and we were asked to close all the gyms for a while longer, and then at the end of it, we had to make a call on whether or not we want to continue putting in good blood against the bad blood, right? I mean, we had to keep supporting our trainers and pay the rent and electricity bills and what maintenance for the building and everything. Right. So we decided to just knock it off, call it a sunk fund, and then move on from that. It was a huge hit because the investment was obviously a lot higher in that. Right. The third one that I'm currently taking up and working on is the investment advisory firm that's been going on for the last 27 months. There has been a steady increase of my customer base. So I've been investing in stock markets and in companies from the last 15+ years. So just wanted to, I was helping all my near and dear ones, in making some sound investment advices as to where they should invest and where they should not. And I was doing it for free for a very long time before my mentor told me that if you think you're good, then don't do it for free and try to formalize that process.
Okay.
When I went ahead and I created my own company, a private limited firm. So we have been profitable right from day one. Our operational expenses have been very minimal. What I've realized is that you don't have to have a lot of money or lot of effort to make something successful. If you're good at something and if there is a customer demand for it, obviously your business is going to see an uptick.
Right.
That's what I'm seeing now.
Yeah. No, interesting. I mean, I know though For some reason, I couldn't figure out, and I'm sorry, I'm digressing because the brand that you, the franchisee of Goli Vada Pav that you took up, for some reason that brand just did not succeed. Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know why. Not only I don't know which location you were in, but there was one store in Jayanagar I remember seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That also, I think I saw it for about a year and a half, and then it just.
Yeah, so they had multiple flaws. When they started with an intention of growing well, ensuring that everybody makes money in the due process. But it came to a point where they took on external funds from venture capitalists, and they started getting pressure from them to deliver more. So within a catchment earlier, before when we started, the catchment area for opening any new franchisee was at least a 2-kilometer radius. Then they started deviating from that and started cannibalizing their own customer base or their own, franchisees. So all they wanted was an upfront payment for them and a minimal ordering once in every 2 weeks, right? I mean, from there on, it didn't matter to them. They made money regardless of whether end franchisee did make money or not. So multiple things like that. They did not have a proper master franchisee and operational unit which could support the end franchisees whenever they had any issues. They just lacked basic competitive sense, and what they shouldn't have done is increase the price of a basic offering of a vada pav from 20 rupees to 25 to 30. I mean, it just didn't work because everybody else in and around started selling that for 15 rupees, and you had to really justify to all the customers who used to crib, right? I mean, my firm was in Rajajinagar, where, with all due respect, there are a lot of Gujaratis and Rajasthanis, I mean, who stay there, right? So they understand that it doesn't take that kind of a money to get a vada pav, and especially when there are like 8 other people serving the same thing, on the same road in a span of 100 meters. So.
Right. Interesting. Fantastic learning. Thank you for sharing. I think amazing learning. There's so much, I think, in the entire thing. How do you, in fact, if you're willing to, some of you want to take up entrepreneurship as a specialization in T4, where we actually get into idea assessment and all that.
Yeah.
Just throws up a lot of those insights in learning. Yeah. And the kind of pitfalls that one would have seen or which came up later, and then I think there was no way you could pivot at that time because you were already invested. Super. So I think we should, thank you so much for sharing that experience. And if there is more, unfortunately, not all 190, 180 odd are on the call, but I'm sure it would have been a great, understanding of I think you just described the entire entrepreneurial journey and how it happens. Yeah. But I don't know, how did you manage all the stress? I mean, I'm sure you would have been, it would have affected you in some form or the other.
Yeah, the first one was good because we had a successful exit from that. We sold it to somebody else, and we were profitable for as long as we existed.
Right.
It was a big hit, both financially and as well, from an emotional standpoint, because we had to close it down abruptly, and we were tormented continuously by every member because we didn't have the money to pay them back. We just had to kind of, it was a no-show from our side.
Got it.
So, yeah, I mean, that was a little bit of a huge hit on both emotional, then financial state that we were in. But yeah, I mean, one thing that we realized is it is good to get out of that once for and all, rather than taking a hit every month on that. We could even, end up accumulating the operational expenses that was required to keep it running. Just not doable, especially since our gym was in Bachakri, and the operational expenses were almost like 4.5 to 5 lakhs every month, right? So,
wow.
Yeah. So, but the current one is going really good. But one thing that I have realized is for no matter whether you're profitable or you're burning money in the due process of the business. A couple of things that I have learned, Professor, is that your networking with your family and friends, that really helps. You should be willing to take feedback at its face value and act on it. And your family support is utmost required, because I end up spending a lot of my time, my personal time, on these ventures, right? I mean, I believe in having a personal connect with almost all my customers today who are invested with me in my financial advisory service. So I spend a lot of time talking to them, and it definitely comes from my personal time. So I have a great supporting family in that front. So that is something that really is a must in my perspective. Of it has been a must for me, a great pillar of support.
Super. So yeah, so I think thanks so much for sharing. I think it's great. Very nice of you to actually do that and be quite candid about it. Yeah. So I think while we spoke about individuals being entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs getting into setting up their own ventures, there's also something called corporate entrepreneur mindset, right? Which is what is it's nothing but where in an organization where you promote the concept of entrepreneurship, where you look at innovation as a very serious thing, and then pursue projects around that, and that's called entrepreneurship, which is a big thing. It's actually taking up. It's becoming very popular. What should I say? Most organizations are seeing a lot of benefit and value in doing this, simply because I think, like I said, most employees, most people who start aren't working with somebody's organization, right? And imagine somebody who is good, leaves a particular organization, sets up start something where he's going back to the same customers of his previous organization and selling this as an add-on. Now, what happened is, how would the organization have benefited if he had still been retained and got him to and lead the entire project, and where the entire where this added feature or product or whatever would have been sold back to their own customers, possibly for a better premium. So, and why is this changing? I pointed out that there are certain mind shifts that are changing. Consumer mind shifts are happening. Economy is being fluid, but I think the global economy also is creating a lot of substantial changes, because organizations are working today across. There's no the concept of geographies has gone, and internal and external environments are changing. Your employees want obviously better things within the organization, and you have to become nimble and agile. I think we kind of see why one needs to be nimble and agile. And the only way to do and become nimble and agile is to become more fragmented. And I'll tell you this, I think a lot of larger organizations today will start fragmenting. Yeah. I'm not obviously going to, and don't quote me on this, but an organization like, for example, like an Infosys, right? An Infosys may become multiple Infosys, Infosys 1, Infosys 2, Infosys 3, where things become much smaller, and possibly each of these divisions can handle a vertical independently without having to rely on the overall chain of command. So why entrepreneurship is becoming popular, and so this thing is because of so many tech startups coming out. Employees within tech organizations are willing now to go and experiment. Yeah, there is money. Yeah, for a good idea and for a good team, there is money available. VCs are really willing to. And today, India, I think, is becoming on par, if not may not as yet maybe as good as the American system, but India is becoming on par, and will get there soon in terms of how to manage entrepreneurs. And the government, I think, is doing a fabulous job in promoting the spirit of entrepreneurship. What does it take for an organization to look at corporate entrepreneurship, right? It needs a lot of re-engineering. The entire thought process, the entire culture needs to change. And this has to be top down. It can't be just a small team of 10 or 15 people who say, now, you know what, you guys will look after innovation and drive. Now, if larger organization has not bought into it, the whole thought and idea, it's going to become very difficult. Yeah, it's going to only end up in as a frustrated exercise, or an exercise with which will only frustrate the team that's working on it. So what changes are required? One is you need to firstly know that innovation is critical and pursue the concept of innovation. Set goals, and the only difference here is you set up there's a team internally. The only difference is on the 30th of the month, there is a comfort feeling of a salary coming in, because the organization is backing on that, and that's the investment that the organization is making. Create a system of feedback and positive reinforcement. So constant talking. Everybody has to be involved. Across the leadership has to be involved, and the whole thing has to be as a very collaborative and very encouraging state. Rewards for innovation and encourage failure. Critical, I think, is the need to encourage failure, which I think as Indians we don't. As a society we don't. So obviously it's difficult for organizations also to this thing, but there is a need to change that. And I believe there is change happening. I've just some of the IT companies and people who are working in some of the IT companies tell me that today there are a lot of change shifts that are happening, right? The process of interviews, you don't ask about the personal background. You're more interested in the person's attitudes and skill set, and how those attitudes and skill sets can complement the organization's skill set, and whether the person fits into the organization culture. Right? You're not worried about gender. You're not worried about what kind of background, which I think is a great way to look at things. Look at more action-oriented meetings. Today we have I've been involved in meetings which have started at 9 o'clock, 9:30 in the morning, and gone until 2:33 in the afternoon, and having to skip lunch, where the outcome is zero, right? So is there any way that those meetings can become informal, become less bureaucracy, less bureaucracy oriented? Take the idea to market. Yeah, as part of the idea generation. Once you generate an idea, the first thing you do is go and get it validated. And validation can happen through research, can happen through talking to people. Validation does not have mean that you build. The second stage is building the product, and then doing a proof of concept. How can you even set up? I remember walking into there was this office. There's a building on the outer ring road, just after you enter. You don't go Sajapur, but just as you go onto the outer ring road, on the right side there's a building called I think it's called Ferns or something, and there are a couple of offices there. And one of the offices is, I think, designed like how a startup would be, completely casual, beautiful color. There's a lot of nice stuff, bean bags lying around, and small little enclosures, not really formal meeting rooms, but small little enclosures where people can just hang out and chat up on work and stuff like that. And the good thing with a startup, so what normally people do before they start up is you have a day job, and then you come back in the evening, and then you look at your the second or the entrepreneurial venture that you're working on, right? So you're basically taking up a lot of your personal time into building that venture. Now with an entrepreneurship with entrepreneurship, there's a possibility of doing both on company time. So And the only way that this can be done is through removing the old procedures and red tape, which exists, which means change of complete mindset within the organization. How to make that shift? Identify potential candidates who will be responsible, who are innovative and will be involved. I'm sure most organizations will have good people with them. Get the top management to sponsor these projects. Create those goals. Yeah, create a complete milestone plan. Think. Let them give them the ability to think like an entrepreneurial venture. Ensure collaborative process between that team and the overall organization. Yeah, but redesigning, reorganization, rethinking of the process does not mean doing the old tasks more efficiently. It is a complete shift in culture, management philosophies, and techniques. Yeah. And while I think I just mentioned Tata's were trying to do that with their hypermarket business, which is the grocery division, which is Star Observe. They realized they were not going far, and that's one of the reasons why they picked up Big Basket. Yeah. So how do you define a concept? Is also how it will help is because of the fact that today large organizations are facing competition from very small players, and Adobe is facing competition from a 10-man startup or a 12-man startup because they have something with them that possibly Adobe does not want to even invest in. Good people, you can retain good people from exiting the business. And even if the organization downsizes for some reason, you can always spin this off as a separate entity and create it as a separate vertical or whatever, right? So there is, I mean, it's basically what it means is, can large organizations move into a more, do away with the old redundant, the old legacy processes and systems, and say, hey, you know what, we are keen on driving a far more agile organization or agile, agile company, which will respond to customer needs in quick time. Yeah. And how to do it is obviously, create this one. And that's one of the reasons why I feel large organizations will start fragmenting. It could be, if not now, today, in the next 5-6 years, it will definitely happen. And that's the only way things will move, because the markets are becoming so fragmented. Customer profiles, customer needs are changing. There are a set of customers who, the pandemic did not even affect, and they've gone and invested in some of the most expensive cars, right? I don't know, most of you must have read. Mercedes has done exceedingly fantastic sales from May 2020 to December 2020 in 6 months, because there are a set of people who, for them, it doesn't really matter. So when the markets are shifting like that, when there are customers like that, how do you kind of ensure that you have products and services that can cater to these kind of customers? I remember, I think, just talking about fashion, about 8-9 years ago, there were certain brands that were coming to India, international brands, and not 8-9 years. This is, I'm talking sometime in 2000. Yeah, about 2012, about 8-9 years ago. Yeah. So we did help. Two of the brands had reached out to the Future Group to see if they could take up the India franchisee, and that kind of. Well, does not have direct connect with entrepreneurship, but I'll tell you how, what kind of impact, or what is the outcome of this whole thing, right? And why understanding customer is so important. Now this is a very high-end luxury, uh, handbag and travel manufacturer, travel good manufacturer. So they came, they spoke, they want to do understand. So first thing we said, why don't we go and understand who your customers are, right? Because in the West, people would buy these things. There are a lot more people who would buy these things. But in India, of course, the percentage will be much smaller because of the kind of price point. Yeah. And then we realized when we actually went out to the market, then we realized that there are two things happening, or three things happening. The person who could afford products like this were not buying it in India. We're actually traveling to Singapore or Dubai or going to London and picking these things up. Second is there were a lot of fakes coming in from China, which looked like the original and being sold at 1/10 the price. So in a situation like this, how do you even battle it out? Yeah, so we had to kind of tell them, hey, I don't think it's a good idea. Finally, they didn't come. Yeah, because they realized that it wouldn't have made sense. They just invested quite a few dollars into the real estate space in creating that retail infrastructure, and possibly in 2-3 years time they would have to just shut it down. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is, yeah, it may not be connected directly to it, but understanding the customer is so important. Yeah. So yeah. So one only reason entrepreneurship will really succeed is through warranted action, which is sponsored by the management, having informal meetings, and the one thing that I admire the IT companies on, which I wish most of the Indian companies also start imbibing, is to get rid of that entire red tape and bureaucracy that exists. Yeah. Tolerate failure. I think failure is, we need to celebrate failure. If there is a product that's there or an idea that's there, I think get it out in the market. Let's see what happens. Because there's no loss here. Yeah, but at least from a company perspective. Yes, it will for a small entrepreneurial firm, it will hit because getting an idea into market means you are testing your close to final product. Reward innovation not for anything else but for innovation's sake. Make communication far more informal.
Professor, sorry.
Yes. Yeah, tell me.
So you were talking about organization supporting failure thing, but say for example, if it supports and say any product goes out and it cause adverse effect on customers, wouldn't it cause reputational damage to the organization?
Yeah, but what it will, but if you do it very on a large scale, yeah, and if there is a lot of what should I say, a lot of marketing muscle put behind it, right? So the idea is to get this product out in phases. You get somebody to test it out in a small way internally, and then you get out maybe your top customer, your most reliable customer, or your most trusted customer, right? Or your most favorite customer. You go out there and give the product to them, ask them to test it out, and then give you feedback. So the entire testing and getting the idea to market is a very phased approach. But yes, if you do it on a larger scale and then and back it up with a lot of marketing muscle, it is going to be it will hit the organizational reputation quite badly. And I'm sure a lot of the IT companies, the automobile companies are facing it today. Yeah, you must be reading about Volkswagen recalling certain number of cars because the diesel engines have faulty they had something faulty in the engine, right? Tesla is doing it. Yeah. So, and they knew it was there. It's not that they didn't know, but they just sent it away. Boeing had a massive blowback because of 2 plane crashes, and even after taking a break and saying that they corrected it, but the test flight of one of the 737 Max also had a problem. This is very visible, yeah, and because and most of these are involved because it is automobiles and aircraft and involves people's lives. It was spoken about, but if it's a product it's more, say, an automation product or a process improvement product. I don't, and if it's done in a very small way, it should not affect.
Okay, thanks, Professor.
The other thing that a lot of the corporates are doing is also running these hackathons, through which they crowdsource some of the ideas and some of the solutions that the teams can then future work on. If your own team is not large enough or not, don't have the wherewithal to come up with innovative ideas, the other way to do it is to crowdsource them. And one of the ways is running hackathon.
Yeah, Cognizant does it often.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of them do it. OnePlus, I think did it when they launched the OnePlus 8 just before the pandemic, or OnePlus 7. I think they had a hackathon, mainly in the gaming space, by using the phones and creating, or was it the Gameathon, right? Yeah, Cognizant does it. I'm sure some of the other IT organizations also would be doing it. So, yeah, any other questions? I think we'll do one thing. We'll stop here for today, and then come back on the 17th. But in the meantime, I think what I would suggest is please do some reading. I'll upload this deck, sorry, and onto the LMS, so you can just read it, go through it. But going forward, there's two ways that I would like you guys to interact more openly in class. So what I'll do is, in addition to the case study that I've given you, which is assignment 1, I think I'll give you a couple of more case studies which you all can discuss in class, but that will be post the second session. So any other questions? Otherwise we can wind up for today.
Professor,
Yes.
actually most of the startup they have their innovative idea and they have their business model. They have all the market analysis. They do all the things, right?
Right.
But why fail in? Why a lot of startups fails in the initial 3 months, 6 months? Because they have the idea, they know what to do, and I just want to elaborate from based on your experience. What are the reasons for their failures? They know they know they are very committed. Their confidence level is good. Their perseverance is good, and they have good funding. But in all the aspects, somehow, like why they fail. I just want to understand from your.
Yeah. One is, if a lot of things are going well for them, one of the key reasons they could fail is the team. The team itself is somewhere either wrong team or not, or weak. Okay? When I say team, it will not be the founders, but the rest of the team. Yeah, the rest of the employees. For some reason, it's not just there. 2, even though they have funding, they could run out of cash. Number 3, they may have a great product, but when they go out in the actual market, possibly the market has shifted and the product may not be needed. Or when they go and actually start, they have built the product based on certain inputs, maybe of 1 or 2 prospective customers, right? But when they go a third guy, that guy say, hey, this product that I don't even need it because my challenge is something different. 4 is something in the economy that could just come and then create that disruption which impacts them, and they're not able to pivot.
Another question I have is sorry.
Oh, sorry, Shiva. Could patience also be a key here, because some of the businesses, will have a break-even points of 2 or even 3 years sometimes. So, will that also factor in?
In terms of you're saying patience?
Yes, because like some of the businesses will have a break-even points of like 2 or even 3 years. So,
right.
The stakeholders might not be so patient. They might want it. They might want
in a hurry. Yeah, possible.
Yeah,
possible. Yeah, they want results quickly and fast. But I don't know if I've captured it here or where I've captured it. I don't know. Yeah, it's you know what they say is the entrepreneurial journey is like a marathon, not a sprint. Yeah. So yes, success may not come to you in 3 years. It may take 4 years. It may take 5 years. I need to have that. Yeah, it's possible. They may lose patience and say, they may say, forget it. Yeah. Or they may go and just exit the business and give it to somebody else. Okay, somebody else had a question.
Professor, another question I have is for the big corporates, nurturing the innovation culture and being like entrepreneurship within the organization itself, like fragmentation or something. As you said, I think it's already happening. We are seeing
Yeah, it is. Is that happening? Yeah, in your company?
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
we call it strategic business unit. So it's
Okay.
already implemented. It was a one top. Now it was very into 5, 6, and some BUs are like specialty chemicals are more agile, and we want to more customer centric, addressing the customer issues. My question is, in that nurturing the culture within these no like small BU business units, and then make something out of it, or the big corporates investing in small startup and you know uh, nurture that idea and later acquire them. So which will be the best which one will be the best option based on your experience, Professor?
My option would be the option one, where I take my own employees and work with them. Work with them and create that entire entrepreneurial setup. Yeah. And while the second option is also not bad, the first option is preferable because you are the people you know them, the people know you, right?
Right.
There is even if the money, even if for some reason that thing doesn't work out, there's no loss. There's no real loss as such. Yeah. But
Yeah,
you at least identified some of the top talent. But here, when you're when you're doing it with an external party, they could be they may not fit into your culture at all. And two is, if it fails, it is money that's not well spent.
Yeah, another advantage that I see investing in our own employees is like it can become contagious, and even others
Absolutely
start thinking about.
Yes, it actually encourages others to also think differently, possibly think and say, even we can do it, and we can also be a part of the entire innovation process.
Yeah, one thing definitely good is the IP aspect and all. If you do it inside and go outside, that's clear.
Right.
Okay, thank you, Professor.
Yeah, thanks so much. Any other questions? Happy to take. Otherwise, I'll we'll catch up on the 17th.
Professor, can you help us with some reference books that we can start?
Yeah, I'll do that. In fact, I've already, I think, put one book up on the LMS. Check that in the
No,
presentation.
we don't have any books on LMS. I did
No?
check.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll put up one book. I'll put up a soft copy of a book. I'll also give you a reference of some other book.
Oh, thank you.
All right.
Can we get the class PPT? Or
Yeah. The recording will be there, and I'll upload this on the LMS.
Okay. And the next topic also, what we'll be dealing with.
Yeah. I'll put up. I'll try and okay. I couldn't complete social entrepreneurship, so I'll do social entrepreneurship next topic, next class, and what I'll cover next class. That other deck I'll put up within this one. I'll upload it tonight itself. The second one maybe in next few days. Yeah, what you're going to do on 17th.
Thank you.
Yeah.